everybody. Welcome back to Just Guitar Talk. I'm Brandon. Welcome back to the channel. It's been a long time. It's been almost 2 months or something like that. Yeah, since the last video that I made. But happy to be back. I took some time off to work on the, the video, which, still working on, as you can tell. So the video, audio, and lighting and everything. So, I was just kind of working on my computer for making videos for a while, but now I've got an upgraded phone, also a condenser microphone on my phone as well, a nice camera stand, all that good stuff, and some nice lighting and everything. So hopefully the quality of the video is much better. And this week I wanted to talk about Gibson Les Pauls and also my Gibson Les Paul. I've had kind of a weird history with Gibson Les Pauls. I've always been a Fender Stratocaster guy, and just a Fender guy in general. I love Fender guitars, and I always gravitated towards them. And it took me a long time to actually warm up to Gibson Les Pauls. And now I still, I struggle with some Gibson Les Pauls, and I know a lot of people have struggled with Gibson the company over the years. But I think they're making some fantastic Les Pauls, and I actually really love this one. I did do some work to it, but I'll talk about that later. But let's begin from the beginning. In the 90s, guitars were pretty bad. I don't think there was some great guitars that came out of the 90s, but I did have my Mexican Strat, which I loved, and I played a lot, and I thought it was fantastic. And the guitar players that I loved as a kid were Stevie Ray Vaughan and David Gilmour, and they were Strat guys, and so that's what I gravitated towards, and that's what I learned to play electric guitar on, and that's what I used for a very long time. And then when I was in high school, I joined a punk rock band, and we were playing some heavy punk rock, and a Strat really wasn't cutting it. And my friend in the band played an Epiphone Les Paul, and his was like a Les Paul custom, like Black Beauty 3 pickup type deal. And it was everything I knew to be true about Les Pauls. It was really heavy, kind of uncomfortable to play, but it was a rock and roll machine. And I had another friend in school who had an Epiphone Les Paul that he didn't play that much, that I ended up buying from him. And he had a Slash's Snake Pit signature Les Paul. This was really different than anything I'd seen before, and it was this Epiphone Les Paul with black hardware, had like the Slash logo with like the snake wrapped around a bone and a top hat and a cigarette, and it was kind of hokey, but I actually thought it was cool at the time. This was like in high school, and I found that for playing some loud, dirty rock and roll, Les Paul was the best I'd ever heard, and I think that's still true, actually. So I played in this band a Les Paul quite a bit, and I don't know if I bought the guitar from him or if he let me borrow it for a while, because he was kind of a Strat guy too, and he was playing his Stratocaster. But I think I either sold or I gave back that Slash Les Paul, and I ended up buying my own Epiphone Les Paul. And it was kind of different, but I picked up an Epiphone 56 Gold Top Les Paul with the P90 pickups. And it was different than any Les Paul I'd played before. And I really hadn't gotten my hands on like a real deal Gibson Les Paul. I think in music stores, the only thing they had were like the studios, which I wasn't a huge fan of. And when I played this Epiphone 56 Gold Top, it was like, wow, this is kind of cool. I love this gold top. It's got this like sparkle to it, and the neck was a little bit thicker, and I kind of like the beefy neck. And it also had P90 pickups, which I had no idea what those were. But I started out as a single coil player, and these were like beefier, and they really cut through in distortion when I was playing in my punk rock band, and I just loved it. I thought it was great, and I played that for a really, really long time. Eventually, I had problems with it. I forget what the problem I had with it. I think the toggle switch kept breaking off, and that was kind of annoying. But I ended up getting rid of it. But I always thought about that Les Paul, and I was like, man, I'd really like to have an actual 56 Gold Top Les Paul, like a Gibson. Wouldn't we all? And I've always thought about that for like a really long time. And I kind of got out of heavy rock and roll playing for a long time. I picked up a Gibson Flying V and a Gibson SG along the way, and I liked those. They were pretty cool. They were like the faded versions, so they were kind of the low budget ones. And I just ended up getting rid of them after a while because I just didn't play them very often. But whenever I would go into guitar stores, I would always just take a look at Les Pauls to see what they got and see what they were like. And they went through several different variations and different types of models out there. And I remember the first one that I kind of gelled with in a long time. I was at the guitar store and I picked up a Gibson Les Paul Traditional Pro, and it was wine red. And it had that 60s slim taper neck, which I thought was pretty cool. And it had all the push pulls, so you could get like, I don't know, single coil sounds. And it also did the Peter Green in between sound thing. And it was pretty cool. It got some really great, almost stratty sounds. And I don't think I would use them, just because if I was going to play Gibson Les Paul, I wouldn't try to get those type of tones from it. But I liked it, and that was the first Gibson Les Paul I played in a long time that I actually liked. And then it wasn't until about 2016 or 2017 that I actually played Gibson Les Paul Traditional Plain Top. And it was just kind of like Honeyburst, plain top, no frills. This was after the whole 2015 debacle, and they had really gone back to basics, and it was just, a very basic but very good Les Paul. And there's something about that mahogany body with a maple top sound that is just great for rock and roll. And if you were to combine that with some low output PAF style pickups, just great, well-rounded blues sound. I mean, traditionally I'd only use Strats and maybe various hollow bodies for blues songs, but I actually was like, wow, I actually might try playing a Gibson Les Paul for blues, and that might be pretty cool, and maybe get one of those traditionals. But I just never got around to it, and I had different gear priorities at the time. So it was about a few months ago that I was thinking about maybe getting a new guitar. I'd always like maybe like, I have a Strat, I should have a Les Paul too. I always thought about that with Les Pauls too. I'm like, you know what? I should just have one. I feel like every guitar player should have, a pretty well-rounded collection where you have like a Stratocaster, you have a Les Paul type guitar, maybe you'd have a hollow body guitar as well, just kind of run the gamut of the different styles, because playing a guitar that's totally different than one that you're used to playing can make you play differently. And that's, what I've kind of liked about Les Pauls. But I was like, should I get a traditional? What should I get? I was in the market for a new guitar, and I thought, I always wanted like that 56 gold top. I thought about my Epi 56 gold top. I'm like, well, I can't afford a real Gibson Les Paul 56 gold top reissue. It was just crazy expensive. And I'm like, should I get an Epiphone one and upgrade it? I'm like, oh, no, it's just like, the new Epiphone Les Pauls look great. I just gotta tell you, that headstock, man, I just don't want that Epiphone headstock. I would if I was getting a Casino or, like an Epiphone guitar, but to me, that Les Paul is Gibson. I just don't want that Epiphone headstock. That's just me, though. Some people are cool with it, it's whatever. And I was just cruising on Instagram, looking at all the guitar pages that I check out, and I saw somebody posted a picture. It wasn't this one, but it was this line of guitars. This is a 2010 Gibson Les Paul 60s tribute. Now, it's kind of a no frills Gibson Les Paul. It is, satin finish, has a little bit of binding right here, but no binding on the neck and no binding on the headstock. And it is chambered on the inside, and it's got P90 pickups. So I actually found one online on Reverb because I saw that picture and I was like, oh, that looks gorgeous. And, maybe like, yeah, because, I can't afford a Gibson Gold Top, but maybe I can get one of these bad boys and kind of, you know, upgrade it a little bit. And I found one at a really good price. Yeah, Gibson Les Paul 60s Tribute. And of course, like every guitar I've ever had in my life, I did some modifications. This is a Graphtec Rezo Mac String Saver bridge. It is awesome. I put one of these, or the Strat variation on my Strat, and it increased sustain, and it just sounds fantastic. And it did the same thing for this Les Paul, and it's like 65 bucks. I will put these on all my guitars going forward, 100%. Put reflector knobs on here, and I did a custom tortoiseshell pickguard. It has to be a tortoiseshell pickguard. I also got a custom tortoiseshell truss rod cover, and I love the way these look, the way they offset the Honeyburst body. I think they just look really cool. Also, these are Lindy Fralin hum canceling P90s, and they are awesome. I've read about Lindy Fralin pickups before, and heard great things, watched a ton of YouTube videos, and I'd always wanted to get a pair because, you know, I wanted to get a P90 guitar at some point, but I didn't know when or what kind I wanted. And this guitar came around. I'm like, you know what? Now's the time. And I got these Lindy Fralin hum canceling P90s, and they are amazing. They're fantastic. I love single coil pickups. I hate the noise. On my Strat, I have noiseless pickups as well, and these are noiseless, and they're awesome. They sound great, just as good as the P90 humbuckers that came in this guitar, and they're quiet. I gotta have it. You know, that's a just personal preference for me, and so, you know, I put them in there, and I love it. And then I also installed a bone nut as well. I didn't do any of this stuff. The luthier at my local guitar place did, and they did a really good job over at South Austin Music, actually. And so, yeah, and what I like about this too is the chambering. It's super lightweight. And I had struggled with that with Les Pauls in the past. You know, Les Pauls, especially being a Strat guy, I'd always struggled with the ergonomics and the practicality of them. It's like they were super heavy. They weren't that comfortable, especially when you sat down with them. And, you know, I really struggled with that. But this is really lightweight. I don't know the exact weight, but much lighter than a regular Les Paul. And the chambering kind of gives it almost a hollow body feel and sound. You know, like you get that when you play it acoustically and also plugged in as well. I get a little bit of that nice woody hollow body tone that I really dig, you know. And so this ended up being the right Gibson Les Paul for me. And I will say, if you're a Strat player that is thinking about maybe like trying out a Gibson Les Paul, but you haven't found any that you're really into, I would say check out anything with P90s in it. Just being a single coil player, I think you'll really gravitate towards it. And just check them out, you know. And the Epiphones are good. I hear that they're just getting better too, you know, with the Inspired by Gibson line. So I'm sure, you know, Epiphones are great for beginners, and they're only getting better. So check those out as well. You know, I gotta give props to all the gear I had when I was in high school that got me started. You know, all the Epiphones and PVs and Zoom pedals and all that stuff. You know, all those things got us to where we are today. So yeah, here I am in my Les Paul journey. I ended up with a Gibson Les Paul 60s Tribute that I modded to kind of make my own. And I love it. It's fantastic. It's a rock and roll machine, like all Les Pauls are. And it's great for blues. Very warm tone with these P90 pickups, but also give great clarity as well. It's got a very airy tone about it as well, due to the chambering, I believe. And I'm very happy with it. You know, it wasn't that expensive. Used, I think I got it for around 900 something bucks. And, you know, with all the modifications, it was maybe another 500 bucks. So it's around 1,500 bucks for a really good American Les Paul, you know, which is a heck of a deal, you know. And because it's not a $3,000 Les Paul with all the figured maple and, you know, all the binding and stuff like that, if I were to get some scratches and dings on this thing, I wouldn't be too upset about it. You know, which you really can't say about some of the Les Pauls that you would buy, because they are expensive guitars. You know, you can get some good ones for like $2,000 brand new for sure. But still, that's a lot of money. And I will say one day I will throw some bucks at a 1958 reissue Gibson Les Paul. Those custom shop 58 reissues are gorgeous, and they sound so cool. They sound like they just are classic rock, blues and classic rock. They just sound just like that. And plug straight into a Marshall, doesn't get any better than that at all. No. it's great. You know, it's like, you know, you plug a Strat into deluxe reverb. Everybody knows what that sound is, and it sounds great every time. You plug Gibson Les Paul into Marshall, JCM. Yeah, that sound is fantastic. You know, we know what that sound is, and it delivers every single time. So this thing is great. I like it because it's different. I like all my guitars to be different. I like them to, you know, have a little bit of my input in them. You know, like I said, I love doing modifications to everything. It's lightweight, it's comfortable to play. I will say it is tough to get to the upper access, you know, to get up to the higher frets, but I'm not going to sweat it. You know what I mean? It's cool, man. If it was good enough for all the dudes in the 60s and 70s, and that's cool for me. You know, I got other guitars where I can get, you know, better access to the higher frets and everything. But anyways, I love it. You know, it's great. My Gibson Les Paul. So hope you enjoy it. You know, like and subscribe and leave comments if you want. Ask questions about my guitar. And, you know, I'm going to be making more videos more often, more regularly. So if there's anything that you want me to talk about, just let me know and I'll be happy to talk about it. All right. Thank you for watching, everybody. You have a great week.